Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. So to Activist Post we go, where they say since 9/11, the U.S. government has lost a staggering $58,000 every single second. Since 9/11, folks, could you imagine what you would do if $58,000 just dropped in your lap? Or maybe you just won the lottery or something like that, but 58,000. Many of you, including myself, would be absolutely tickled. It would be a game changer, a life-changing event for $58,000 to just magically appear in your bank account or in your pocket. That's a lot for your pocket. But anyway, the Department of Defense has lost $58,000 every single second since 9/11. I mean, that is a staggering amount of money. And it makes you wonder, you know, when people are going to get it out of their heads, this cognitive dissonance that the DOD has to do with defense. It has nothing to do with defense. It has everything to do with offense. See, that is what the Roosevelt Doctrine and all of that was. We really transformed. It was Alfred Thayer Mahan, I think it was his name, that penned the book Sea Power in the early 20th century. It was something that was very pivotal and something that Roosevelt used to justify the huge expansion of the U.S. naval fleet that went far and beyond the scope of what traditional defense really had, you know, the philosophy of defense. And the whole idea was projecting your power outward so that you take the war to them, basically. If there's going to be a conflict, let it happen away from the country, not here within the United States. Which, if you ask me, anybody trying to attack the United States at any point in time ever, looking to do any sort of ground invasion, even after, like, say, a full-scale nuclear attack that they're trying to oogie-boogie us with right now, even if they did that, this place would be Afghanistan on steroids. Because of the type of terrain, the smorgasbord of complex terrain that you are subject to, the fact that a lot of people with knowledge of that terrain will be able to utilize it in an expert-like fashion, and guerrilla warfare would just be off the scale. So any invading force would have their hands full trying to take a state, let alone the entire country. That's just, I just don't ever see that happening. So this idea that you have to project outward is absurd to me, because anybody in their right mind, any foreign government, would know that in order to take over this country, you would need literally millions upon millions of troops just to be able to do that. Now, you could lock down the population centers relatively easy, but the entire landmass itself would be extremely difficult to handle tactically. So all of this trillions and trillions of dollars that have been wasted on foreign wars and foreign intervention have absolutely nothing to do with defense, and has everything to do with transfers of wealth from the less fortunate or other fortunate individuals to the powers that shouldn't be, or the modern day money trust. It says here, when U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld revealed that the Pentagon was missing $2.3 trillion on September 10th, 2001, it seemed like a massive amount. Little did Americans know that the events that would occur the next day would wipe the missing money from the headlines. And over the next 16 years, the amount of money the government is missing would increase at a rate in excess of $58,000 per second. Now, while $2.3 trillion may seem like a lot, no, it is a lot. Another government agency admitted to losing triple that amount in 2009 when former Inspector General Elizabeth Coleman admitted that the Federal Reserve could not account for $9 trillion. Let me stop there and say the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It is a private institution. Even though it runs on this mask, with this mask of I'm a federal agency, it's not. Nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. We could end it tomorrow and cut our losses and be in an infinitely better position than we would be without Federal Reserve or with Federal Reserve intervention. We don't need it. We could handle things much better on our own. It says, quote, I have a copy of the Inspector General Act here in front of me. It says, among other things, that it's your responsibility to conduct and supervise audits and investigations relative to the programs and operations of your agency. This was during a special hearing. Former Representative Alan Grayson said this. Coleman replied, that's correct. And Grayson inquired, said, so I'm asking you, if your agency has, in fact, according to Bloomberg, extended $9 trillion in credit, which, by the way, works out to be $30,000 for every single man, woman, and child in this country. He said, I'd like to know if you're not responsible for investigating that, then who is? And Coleman said, we have a responsibility for the Federal Reserve's programs and operations to conduct audits and investigations in that area. Coleman replied. She went on to claim that she could not comment about specific details while the Federal Reserve was in the middle of a review. Even when Representative Grayson specifically asked this, listen to this, folks, are you telling me that nobody at the Federal Reserve is keeping track on a regular basis of the losses that occur on what is now a $2 trillion portfolio? And of course, I.G. Coleman refused to give a straight answer. The Pentagon has only continued to lose money by the trillion since 9/11. A recent report analyzing the budgets of the Department of Defense and Department of Housing and Urban Development shows that that total has now almost, it's 10 times. $21 trillion. Almost 10 times. The report attributes the missing funds to a series of unsupported journal voucher adjustments. What the hell kind of journal are they using? I mean, $21 trillion is like an accounting glitch, an error? No. These adjustments are not tied to specific accounting transactions, but they are often included in account summaries to cover the balances between systems that cannot be reconciled. I'm sorry, folks. You know, as a civil servant, you are supposed to be the vanguard of the taxpayer and their money. And this clearly is not happening. This is, again, another example of what happens when government gets too big. See, government works on a micro scale, on a microcosm, but as soon as you start to get too big for your britches and accountability starts to enter a gray area where you can't or don't have the resources to provide that accountability that's necessary, then people start robbing the bank. That's what people do. They get a taste of power. They see the money and they eat it up. Wow, you know, and it's nickel dime. It's nickel dime. You know, oh boy, you know, maybe bringing home this this desk that no one's using anymore. I look great in my living room. I'd be a great office, you know, a replacement in my home office. Little by little, all these things add up. You see time and time again these news stories of people that have taken hundreds of computers, sold them, all this military equipment, sold it. You know, housing and urban development, I don't know how the hell what they're doing over there. It says when combining the $21 trillion lost by DOD and HUD with $9 trillion lost by the Federal Reserve, the grand total stands at more than $30 trillion lost by the U.S. government since 9/11. Let's just think about that. The current debt stands at $20 trillion, $21 trillion. Just the money we lost would pay off the national debt and then some. Just the money we lost since 2001. Think about that. What the hell is going on in this country that we find it acceptable to do that? So if you take that $30 trillion and you take 513,820,800 seconds since 9/11, you get a staggering total of $58,386 per second. Think about that. Likewise, there's 315 or so, 330 million Americans in this country. You're looking at, if we were just to take the money lost and hand it back to the people, you'd be looking at a return in and of like $60,000, $65,000 a person. Here you go. Cha-ching. Well, that's why I asked. How would you feel? What kind of game changer would it be for you if $58,000 just dropped in your lap? Like I said, for 95% of America, that would be a literal game changer. That would be a life-altering event. One that, if you use that money wisely, could certainly not only kickstart an economy, but put people in much better financial position. People that have been duped into this credit-based monetary system that, by the way, is extremely overextended in a huge bubble and getting ready. I know we say it's like a broken record. It's gonna pop any time now. And we always see these new and exciting ways that they kick the can down the road just that much farther. But when you look at money wasted at this level, this much, you have to surmise that this cannot continue to go on. That eventually things are going to catch up. You know, all the lies and the corruption and the deceit will boomerang and come full circle. Why? Because that's what Mama said. Mama always said, you know, lies will come back to bite you. That stealing is no good. It's amazing what happens when the most prosperous compensated sector in the American economy, civil servants, federal employees, you can see where they stand. They sit fat, dumb, and happy. But at the end of the day, all they do is, it's not enough. They continue to rape and pillage and steal from people who have nothing left. And that percentage is getting higher and higher. And folks, we can't accept this anymore. And eventually, if we don't fix it, the system will correct itself. And when the system corrects itself, you can imagine, or maybe you can't, maybe I can't imagine the scale of devastation that will be left in the wake of that correction. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Hashtag wake the flock up. Have a great day, everybody.